meninas dos meus olhos para
Back again from last night. We were dancing.
Yes, there's a picture in the book called The Day After. And I think this is not the day to film, this is the day after. This is the day where you have to lie in bed. I just want to say, so yesterday I was social, so today I'm not so social, but I'll try my best. Yeah. But this is the day after. Okay.
I was thinking first we could just say something about the background for the exhibition, as it's only 2.5 years since you got the question. Do you want to come here? Select works.
No.
But what did you really think? I have never asked you.
See, vanity is a very bad thing. You say yes because you think, how can I say no to Munch? Yeah.
Because I also think it's a point, because many people know that we have had this Plus Munch series at the museum, and many write that this is still a part of this series, but it's not. Plus Munch was a presentation where curators from the museum or typical art historians made exhibitions with Munch and another artist. And then last year we stopped that series and we tried to experiment a bit more here, the last time on Tøyen. And before we make the permanent collections in the new museum. So first we had the Mike Ball, she's also present here, cultural theorist, artist, curator, to make an exhibition. Then we invited the writer, Karl Ove Knausgård, and then we have the painter, finally. And I wonder, do you think, as you haven't seen all the other, but you have said Mike's exhibition, do you think it's very visible that it's a painter now, that it differs?
Yeah, well, I think it's more for the people who've seen it to comment on that, if they see such a big difference. I don't know, because as I say, apparently, that's what everyone tells me. I mean, because when you make an exhibition, you look as a painter, but you look also as a writer, you look as a third person. Yeah, so there's so many things that you consider. So I don't know, as I said, maybe, seeing that I paint as a poet, so I suppose so, yeah.
Okay, I go a little back again. When we first met 2 years ago, and this project started, and I arrived in Amsterdam together with Jan Ove Steihaug, and we were there to convince you to do this. And then we learned that you had just written a text on Munch called Munch and Why I Like Him. So it's like a gift for us. It was amazing. And then I really understood how you have been fascinated by Munch for many years, even more than I knew. So then I wonder, how long back was it actually? How long have you known Munch?
I knew I was going to get that question. I've been getting this question all the time, and I keep on saying, I cannot really remember all the moments because it's a very long time, and as we said, we all at school, even in South Africa, we have art books, so we all, I'm sure you know that I knew of Munch much earlier on, that now we've put the date on 1981, but because of the specifically interest in the Alpha and Omega, but Munch was sort of part of art history. Everyone knew Munch, but you didn't really look at Munch. He's the man of the scream and of all those things. That's all the lists of anxiety, etc., etc. So Munch was a sort of person with a history made by the art historians. Oop, there it goes again. The art historians, and yeah, so it's difficult to say all the different moments you had with Munch. But if I look back, I saw in the documenta, I think of 1992, was a catalogue where someone else also made a link to me and Munch, which I totally forgot and I found again. So other people did make connections to me and Munch more than I. Yeah, I sometimes have to go back to find this information again. And then there's Renee Daniels, yeah, which...
Also present here.
Yeah, and I mean, really, in the 80s, I had not really thought about Munch anymore. But Renee sort of, it wasn't sort of so much that Renee said, go and look at Munch, but he worked in a spirit of Munch, the same energy, the same lightness, where you suddenly, he as a painter made me see Munch as a painter much more. I'm sometimes a bit slow in, so I say I need the eyes of others to see things too. I'm not one of those painters, often the painters who say, I don't see anything, I don't look at the art, I find that a bit dangerous painters.
Then was the 80s, but you were here for the first time in 81.
Yeah, that is 80s.
So it's
too.
the same too, so you saw the Alpha and Omega in the same period.
Yeah.
Would you tell us about how you have used it in the exhibition? How it's, yeah?
Yeah, well, I think most people have seen the exhibition now, but in case they didn't, I mean, to make an exhibition, you have to find a structure, and that was very difficult because having, you know, I mean, I always also, in an old interview somewhere with somebody, they asked me which paintings would you take to a desert island. Then I saw that I said The Death of Marat of Munch, which I also forgot that I said that. So, but so then you think, oh, that's one of my favorite paintings, that and that. So, but how do you structure the exhibition? And because I liked Omega's eyes so much, I thought, and it's a female character in his story, and I'm a female, and so I thought that's a nice sort of link to make also. To take his tragic comic, they also have the interest in language, text, and which Mika is very good at, but which I like the combination of that people don't only see things, they see what they've heard. So they see what if the title says vampire, then they don't think, oh, it could be also that actually the ambiguity in his work or in my work, because we use titles, and Renee also uses actually the words in the painting itself. So his story with the text. I mean, if he wrote Under Omega's Eyes, if he wrote something totally different underneath it, if he said, there's a silly woman eating a flower, you could have the same drawing, but you would not have the same impact. So when he says, Omega's eyes would change. On ordinary days, they would be pale blue. But when she looked at her lovers, they became black, with flecks of caramel red. And sometimes she would cover her mouth with a flower. Well, if you read that, you think, that's something to think about. So it makes you think also. You have to look, but you can't separate these two things, the thinking artists so that's also, I think, one of the reasons I took the Alpha and Omega narrative as a thread to build up the rooms. And so that is simple. It's actually a simple exhibition, but simple, I hope, in the right sense, of good sense of the word, but it's not, sometimes it gets too simplistic, and then I'm sorry, so you walk, in a sense, through the atmosphere of the Alpha and Omega.
And you also say something about in the beginning is the end, and I think it's a link here with Alpha and Omega to the last room in the exhibition.
Yes, always when I look at books, I feel a good book or a good show, if you start at the end, you can also go from the end to the beginning or from the beginning in the end, so that the structure, as I said, and in this case, then you have the Venus and Adonis story, and so this link, but the actual expression comes from Samuel Beckett, which I don't know if he said the beginning is in the end or the end is in the beginning, but yet we go on. So it wasn't originally mine, but I use it for other structures too.
Yeah. I also think you should talk a little bit more about René Daniels, because it's not so many in Norway who know your work, and it has become a very nice room, the Moonrise room. If you would talk maybe about the room?
Yes, I would love to talk about René Daniels' works, and what I also like so much, because when I use this thing of a sense of humor, then everyone says to me, and rightly so, well, Munch wasn't that funny. And I know, so if we have to go into sense of humor, talking about the work, then I would say, Munch has got it, but not so much, then I maybe got a little bit more, and then René has got it the most, and in the very elegant sense of the word, because the works itself makes you smile, but it doesn't, the works surprises you. Humor, to find something funny, there has to be an element of surprise in it. Otherwise, I mean, that's why, I mean, humor is not only funny, it is a good painting needs an element of surprise, be it in the composition. I mean, what was lovely also looking at René's work in this show, you see as I say, I'm a bad looker. And I always, because one of the paintings, I traded with him for one of mine, and that is the two E's with the, you know. But in my head, I would think they are like this, but they're not like this. They're on an angle. There's a, you know, and so all these little things. So it is, on the one hand, it is very simple, but you have to really look to see that you've remember it all wrong, or not seen all those. So if you stand in the room, and we're sitting here now, if I would be in the room, it's easier to show you how the different gestures that René uses, each painting has got a different gesture. And I also want to relate it, I said last night about, he taught me about you have to love your subject matter, but love is, he also mentioned, you know, that sensitivity ain't enough. I think that's a problem with many artists. You know, if you're too brutal, that can be tedious, but if you're too sensitive, that's also not enough. Love is one thing, but I mean, depends how you define it, but what's so wonderful about these paintings, they light, but they are serious, and they are strong. The forms are strong. You know, so also the problem with watercolors, I spoke to someone last night, also watercolor is an easy medium in the sense of it flows, so everything flows. So if you only use that, you can get into trouble, because, you know, life is, you need all the different forces together. And so in a better painting, you have these different forces together. And I think, René, and also with the subject matter, but without imitating Munch, but it's got that Munchian touch. Then the whole painting is done, the gestures goes like this, or the gestures go like that. And yeah, so if you look at what there is, it's got that energy, that's why also younger people also, when they love René's work so much, because it isn't dreary, it doesn't, and Munch had this thing also, that energy doesn't die. So the better Munch also has got an energy that you can still feel.
So yeah. And it's also like I have mentioned to you that one reason it's very important for us that you're here, or that one thing you do with Munch is that you make him contemporary. We see him differently with you and Daniels. Also when we were there looking at the Daniels besides the Munch Starry Night without the stars. And you suddenly see all this physicality, how the figures normally they can disappear very fast, and you are really into all the surfaces, all the paint. That's where I think you as a painter, as curator, is very important, how you have set this whole exhibition.
Well, someone else also last night said to me, in a sense, every good painting, okay, then we get into the definition what's good, but is contemporary. But I remember, I think it was Jasper Johns, not in the show you had here, but long time ago. I think it was he where I read it first, because I was much younger, and I read a sentence like, because sometimes you think, what must you do with all the dead artists? It's old art, it's dead. And then you get to this point where some of the dead is much more alive than the living. And so in a sense, but you forget to see it sometimes. So if it helps to make you see it, then
I think
I'm happy. But,
yeah.
But no in doubt. A way, yeah.
Yeah. What was I thinking? When we talked about the last room, there was also like this has been a very long process of selecting works. And during the process, you started to work at an exhibition at your New York gallery, David Swirner. And several of that works also, I think, relates a bit to this exhibition. And luckily, we got Omega's Eyes. I don't know if you can say something about Munch's influence on you. Can you?
Yeah, well, just want to say, the Swirner Gallery is not so new anymore. There was 8 years in between from our first show and this last one, but that's just a factual thing. But what I want to say? Oh yeah, but when I mean, that is the difficulty of how can I say, putting things in different. You don't always know exactly how everything interacts, and so I had the drawings already of Venus and Adonis. That took me also quite a long time to finish and to decide on that. So they were there as a basis also for that exhibition, and at the same time I was indeed looking at Munch. And I think what was it had to do with other aspects too, but I think what Munch did for me was, and that's something that I always preach about, but I preach it also for myself, is that you forget that all rules are made by people. So to say, this is like it is, it can't change, I mean, it can. You make the rules, we make the rules. Also for an artist, you get stuck in your own processes and in your own rules. And the fact of thinking, come on, your life is almost over and that's all you can do, So that it was more, again, that spirit of thinking, come on, get a move on. I mean, it's the movement aspect also of Yeah, the fact is, a painting can, it's not the subject matter that makes it dead, you paint it dead. So I think that helped me sort of thinking of, well, Munch did all these things so many years ago, and now 100 years later, and people still are so stuck in so many rules. I saw, that is for my first picture for my seminar about cinema. I saw it was Mr. Egum, if I pronounce him.
Egum.
He wrote beautiful books on Munch, and his book on Munch and photography, because I use photography, I mean everyone uses photography these days in one manner, it's part of our culture, but there was a picture of the mother of Munch sitting very beautiful and totally in focus, and Munch as a baby is out of focus because he moved. And they said, especially in those days, you don't move in front of the camera, you sit still. And the father thought, and they all thought, useless photograph because he's out of focus. And I thought, even now, these days, if they want to make a portrait photo of you, you have to stand still. Oh, it's out of focus. It's moving. It's not right. You think, have we made any progress? So, press photo, come sit here, do that. So all I'm trying to say is, so Munch made me aware also of how static people can be in their thoughts, and that one needs to, that things gotta sometimes breathe more, open more, and So I think that influenced the show. That was one of the aspects, or a big aspect, of working on the Myths and Mortals show. It's a long answer.
A very good answer. And I also, also, when we were looking at the monks for this show, it was some similarity that when we looked at different versions, as we have all these paintings monks kept at Ekeli, more than 1,000 paintings, and when we have maybe looked at one motive we wanted, and then we found out it's a second version and a third version, and often it became the second or third version. You chose the more sketchy, unfinished, opened, breathing painting, as you said. So it's also very important for this exhibition. I was thinking we should also talk a little bit about the book we have made, as this book is not an ordinary catalog. We wanted to try to do something more. So it was just not just a repetition of the exhibition filled with a lot of articles of art historians, but in a way you were a curator there. So it's more like an artist book where you have made a wider selection of Munch and yourself, also Daniel's, and texts. And it broadened the perspective, I think, of the exhibition even more. And it was also the fact that it was both works by Munch and you we couldn't include in the exhibition. So many of them are also in the book. I don't know if would you like to say something more about the selection, how you have built the book in different sections, or how you begin where you want?
Okay, I just want to say the person that made the book, I mean, because designers or I can't say that word, typography people, they also very important because, so here's Gabriela Coates.
Yeah, you should.
Francisco Coates.
Yeah.
And,
very nice.
We worked on it. On the big pressure, because on the one hand they say it's a book, it can also exist without the exhibition, but we had to get it finished now, so we were had a lot of pressure, and also really working together. You get into things like I said we should not cut off the pictures at the edges, because also relating to Mika's book about the cinematographic way of working and looking, when you use photography with figures, often with Munch also you think, did he actually cut off that foot? Or is it, because most museums, they cut off, you know, if you buy a postcard of Vermeer's Woman of the Pearl, it doesn't fit on their postcard size that there's a lot of black to the side. So they always cut it so that it looks quite normal and that you only can look at the pearl. But actually the pictures got much more black to the side, which you would say you should respect that. That's also part of the psychology of the picture. So I'm just trying to say, so in this case, I thought, let's not cut off any edges so that one can see where, because Munch also the figure is sometimes too big, it can almost not get into the frame, and my figures are also a bit suffocating in their frames, and sometimes with some of them I think, oh no, did I do that? Why did they cut it off there? That's a terrible cut. But so, I mean, so that was something that we decided to not do, and but then you have the size of the book, and and then if you don't put white around the edges, then you have, do you put a color around it? You know, I also want to say, me and René from the 80s comes from the time where, and he is much better than I am, but where you recognize that the art act is a performance, but the exhibition is a performance, and the relation to the architecture is part of it, and all these things influence one another, and so also the book, you know, and the colors of something, because I was saying Munch is so bright, and then if you have a reproduction where Munch looks like mud, you know, you think, you know, who says he's so bright? He looks very brown. But on the other hand, also my own works, you think, oh, I can't remember my own colors. Anyway, but so there's so many things that that's not about now the content of the structure. I mean, that's all part of the content, but I mean, that is sort of also things that, that the more that you look at books, the more you think, what is wrong with this book? And so that was a big thing. And then if it's not the catalog, how do you, what can you say in the book that you don't have in the catalog? So yeah, I started specifically with a quote of Munch where he says not all of his works are confessions. And why I am so interested in that is he contradicts himself, because sometimes, and it depends what you choose, because I think now I don't know if it was a writer, Mr.
Szybeseski?
The writer on the Munch and Knausgård.
Oh.
Can never say his name right.
Yeah, Knausgård. Yeah.
You know, I think, and he must forgive me, I think he used a quote where Munch does say, you know, it's all confessions. But then, you know, I use a quote when he says, no, and my quote, I think, is of a later time.
Yeah.
I didn't look at the dates in the beginning, but where he's making a point that it is not all confessions. He has used, because, so that was one of the aspects I wanted to stress, that if you only work with confessions, you can't keep up, you know, such a oeuvre, I can't pronounce that either, of like Munch has got. So that aspect, and then that his art is not morbid. He says it himself, and it's nice how he builds up the argument. And then we had a red line too, because if you read the quote, you forget that he says that because he says so many other things. That's what happens with me too. I should only make the one point because everyone forgets the point. But so we tried in the book to stress some specific points in his writings.
It's very nice. You have your own underlines.
Yeah.
It's very nice. And you also made you split the book in 5 different sections, and I like the titles. So you also see some of the exhibition. Of course, we have the Alpha and Omega, Venus and Adonis, Sunset and Moonrise, but you also have smoking and drinking, and that's also, I think, important how you stress the fact that he got humor. And I don't know if you want to say.
Yeah, I mean, because apart from the Venus and Alpha and Omega, he also made other works, caricatures, and some that was not printed or published, and about the city of free love, and I've used some of that in there too, where he does use the artist. The artist goes to the city of free love, and there's all these women drinking, and I do very much like that. That's one specific. So he does make a joke on. He liked Daumier and people who, made social satire also. Because you have the rich lady going to the poor artist saying, "Oh, an artist, and a poor one." And, they're all bored. That's also, the whole thing of the bored females or the bored, the modern situation where, that's another long story. But anyway, there he draws, in a sense, himself also in this position, which is also quite... I now I've forgotten the question, really.
No, it's a good answer, I think. Again.
But so we added a few things. Oh, it was about the drinking and the smoking. I mean, but the thing about the bar, the whole thing about the Berlin bar and the ladies and the Polish man that I can't pronounce.
Przybysewski.
She could say it. Huh? Say it again.
Przybysewski.
Yeah, she whispers it. Huh? It's difficult to say. But I mean, if you read what he wrote also about Munch, you can feel his spirit in the writing very much, and everyone quotes always, what the first person has written. You don't even know, because who has said it anymore, and it becomes part of the myth, because he says all the time, and sexuality and repulsion, and he was a Satanist, and a good poet and a big liar, they said. So I really enjoyed reading about all their drinking and smoking in the Berlin bar. But then we didn't have place anymore, so we put a little bit in the book, but we couldn't do all the aspects of Munch in the exhibition.
And not to mention, you write too. You have written for many years. I don't know how long, actually.
Yeah, well, the fact of in 1984, I don't know if it was before that, but maybe before that, when I started to have solo exhibitions in galleries, I started to write my own short notities or notes or so. So I don't really see it as, it's not really proper poems, but it's sort of a parallel little text, because that's also why I'm always so upset about press text or other texts, because it's not because I think I am such a wonderful writer or I can write so well, but I want to participate in, if people frame the work in a certain way, then everyone sees it in that way. So if you do take language serious, then then you also want, I think, me as part of my audience, me looking at myself, I also want to say what I think. And so I started to then, but also that changes a bit. As you get older, you think, I was better, my writing was better when I was young and angry. Now I'm old and angry, and you get tired. So it's not, it's not as good.
You have also published a book with just to mention that, for those who doesn't know, we have a few of them in the bookstore as well, actually. Few. And you had written new text here. And I was thinking maybe we should end, if I could ask you to just
And
read.
then I have to find my glasses. Oh, Gabriella.
Let's see.
Oh,
Because-
just give me the bag. It's impossible to find anything in there. Thank you.
You have written a new text, and
Just
you
thinking,
also use quotes.
Totally out of my class.
A lot of quotes, very nice quotes, and you quote him, and you quote back, and you use quotes from Kierkegaard, I think, and we have Van Gogh is one quote, so it's a very nice mixture together. And then it's one short Moonrise.
Oh, this one. Oh, I thought maybe I can.
You can do what you want.
Yeah. Okay, I can do this one, but I don't know if this is the best one. This is about moonlight, yeah. I tried, I thought, no, okay. Okay, moonlight. Munch did not imitate nature, but he used nature more than I do. He said, I don't paint what I see, but what I saw. I say, I don't paint what I saw, but what the painting wants me to see. For Munch, the moonlight is outside. For me, the moonlight is imagined. I remember as a child watching films at the drive-in called The Sky View, where the light of the full moon affected the screened light of the film stars. Okay. Okay.
Well, thank you. I think actually our time is already up. So, Gade-Lise, were you going to, you want to have some practical, no? Okay, then I just say thank you to everyone who are here. It was very nice. And very soon we will be book signing, yes? Yeah.